As the second movie in James Gunn's DCU, Supergirl had better come out swinging. One can only reason that building a strong foundation with a stable of well-liked and memorable characters would be crucial for the young cinematic universe to capture the hearts of fans and general audiences alike, so it has a strong foundation to build upon down the line. Surely the creatives would be hellbent on putting out only the highest quality films with the most beloved characters in all of DC to ensure that strong start, right?
Okay, this does not look like this is gonna end well.
Aside from the odd choice of Supergirl over Wonder Woman for the second DCU movie, by the end of this, I was rubbing my eyes in equal parts exhaustion and pain from what I was seeing on the screen. I found this supremely disappointing, for several reasons. The first being that the entire thing felt like a meaningless side quest. If this DC universe continues, there'll be no reason to go back and rewatch this one, because it'll feel like pointless filler. It feels like that now. Very little meaningful character development actually goes on, beyond the flashbacks to Krypton and Clark, and those are few and far between. The story is very simple. Krem of the Yellow Hills, a nefarious brigand, has killed Ruthie's family, poisoned Krypto, and stolen Kara's ship. And so Supergirl is on a quest to hunt Krem down to get the antidote for Krypto, while Ruthie tags along in hopes of getting revenge for her family.
You know, we have been formally engaged.
This all takes place in some undefined part of the DC galaxy, like some sci-fi version of True Grit involving alien worlds. Based on the trailers, you might believe that Supergirl was some irresponsible party girl, probably as a result of the traumas of her past on Krypton, but by the end she learns the value of what it means to be a hero. This barely does even that. She's irresponsible and unlikable in the beginning, to slightly less unlikable and barely more responsible at the end. There's no compelling reason for her to finally put the suit on. No real moment of awareness or significant catalyst. It comes across as nothing more than a requirement for a cheap hero moment, than any change in Supergirl's sense of duty or acceptance of herself and her background. It feels totally contrived, along with many of the other sequences in the film. I don't know why James Gunn and the director and whoever else was involved chose to adapt Woman of Tomorrow in the first place, when the most poignant moments and important lessons from the comic were just ignored here. I did read the comic in anticipation of this movie, and that made me hate the movie even more. I'll give you one example. In the comic, while tracking down Krem, Supergirl often stops to help those people who've been impacted by the brigand's behavior. Like here, where she helps the last survivor of a community bury the dead left in Krem's wake. Really the most basic of upstanding heroic behavior. There is none of that in the movie. Supergirl is self-centered and immature. Everything plays out at face value, as you see it in the trailer, with no deeper meaning or interpretations to the material. It renders the entire experience into a shallow fetch/revenge quest against some interplanetary bandits with no meaningful character growth or heroic behavior exhibited. Supergirl straight up murders fools in this, when the whole point of the story in the comic is about overcoming that base desire for revenge and killing, imparting lessons to another in the hopes of bettering them, while still punishing those who deserve it. As are many decent stories about heroes. Heroes should be more than what we are, more than we can be, because it shines a reflective light onto us mere mortals and gives us something to aspire to, a greater ideal. There is none of that here. The writer missed the point entirely and gave us a simplistic buddy adventure devoid of inspiration. That's the best way I can describe this movie. Uninspiring, in every way. The whole thing is dark, dour, and angsty. Supergirl is super unlikable and incapable. She fumbles the simplest of things and lets innocents get killed. She kills others just because they're the bad guys. We don't really get to see many of her powers on display, except for a lot of eye lasering, some x-ray vision, super hearing, and flying. It never goes beyond that. Super speed could have come in awfully handy a whole lot of times, but it's mostly ignored. No freezing breath either. Her super strength feels muted, and when she fights it doesn't feel as powerful as it should. Supergirl feels unheroic, and not just in a morally good, pure sort of way. She feels small and underpowered, especially when compared to Superman, who does show up a couple times and elevates the film simply for his presence. He has an aura, charisma, some quality that you can buy into. Supergirl does not. And a lot of that comes down to Millie Alcock's portrayal. I quite liked her in House of the Dragon, but here, this is a legendarily bad miscasting. She's terrible. Her acting is not good.
Yeah, no, on my second day on House of the Dragon, you know, one of the, I'm not going to say who, but someone very high up pulled me aside and was like, we're going to get you an acting coach.
No. Yeah. We're going to get you an acting coach?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Did you just freak out? Did you just say that?
It just confirmed everything that I kind of know to be true, is that I'm not very good at my job.
Her facial expressions don't match the tone of the scenes half the time. She's grinning for no reason when serious events are taking place, and it doesn't feel like it's part of the script or her character. It feels like a directing or editing issue. She has no charisma whatsoever, no gravitas. And I hate to say, but I couldn't get Will Poulter's face out of my head. She looks so much like him in some angles, it's uncanny. This was a bad casting. I simply could not buy her as Supergirl. The comic drew her as a much more mature and elegant figure, even though it had a lot of the same comedy and story beats. Millie did not capture that feeling at all, and she doesn't sell the performance.
I think that I really wanted to humanize her and to really ground her. I didn't want her to feel like unattainable. I wanted her to feel like a person that you knew who just so happens to be able to fly.
That's it. Every attempt to make Supergirl feel heroic feels fake. There are scenes where she strikes a hero pose, but it feels like it's Millie just posing for the camera, which she is, but you really feel like you're seeing the filming process on screen, like you're seeing too much of how the sausage is getting made, because either the actress or cinematographer or whoever couldn't convincingly pull it off. And then you've got the second half of the buddy team-up, Ruthie, who is mostly useless, especially since the movie ignores the deeper emotional beats of the comic. She's super capable though. I mean, she can kill a 250-pound prison guard using only her raw strength and a chain, stow away on ships like a super spy, and sneak around vents better than Tom Cruise, and has the bravery of 10 men at the tender age of 14. Yeah, it's that kind of character. As if we didn't get enough of that in the MCU. The baddies in this are the Brigands, who are never named other than Brigands, which leads to some idiotic moments where Kara is wandering around a planet where everyone looks like a brigand, asking where the Brigands are, and some brigand-looking people say, yes, we know where some brigands are at. It's just...
Do you have any information on the brigands?
That sort of information's gonna cost you.
The dialogue in this is terrible as well, but they couldn't change the name of the group at all? Something other than a generic descriptor? At least Guardians of the Galaxy called this group the Ravagers. The Brigands are basically a Fury Road knockoff, marauding about, killing and looting, but mainly kidnapping young girls so they can perpetrate their all-male race. Yes, that's what's stated in the movie. The enemies are a group of toxic males. Krem, the leader of this group, is portrayed well by Matthias Schoenaerts. I thought he did a decent job. Krem is vile, unapologetic, chaotic. The problem is that we know next to nothing about him, and he ends up being yet another entirely forgettable villain in a long line of forgettable villains in superhero movies. He apparently has superhuman strength, but we're never told why, what the limits of his power are, what his species is, etc. Nothing's explained. He's just a one-dimensional evil guy. You might think that Jason Momoa as Lobo rides in to save the film, but alas, even he can't salvage much. He's hardly in the movie. His involvement is completely unrelated to Supergirl and Ruthie's quest, which fits with Lobo's character, but it makes for a very disconnected storyline and diminishes the overall impact he has, especially when he's grossly underpowered at points compared to the comics, where he's supposed to be on par with Superman. Jason Momoa does a fine job as the character, though. It's the writing, once again, that lets things down. This feels like someone was imitating a James Gunn movie and doing a poor job of it. The humor isn't very good, the musical choices with obligatory pop songs were really poor, the needle drop during the climax was just awful, and actually diminished the final battle. The tone was all over the place, the galactic element felt incoherent and meaningless. It's all contrived and unnatural. There's no real flow to the film in a convincing way. I'd give this a 4 out of 10. It gets some points for the action, the movie looks good when it isn't too dark to see things, the effects are done well, Lobo is cool to see, David Cornsweet as Superman still pulls the role off effortlessly, but everything else was subpar. The writing was extremely shallow and convenient, with no understanding of what made the comic book work. And the same woman is apparently slated to write the Wonder Woman movie. Great. But the main problem for me is Supergirl herself, which is a major issue, and the movie is about Supergirl. Oh, and minor spoilers. There's an aspect from the Superman movie about Kal-El's origin that's doubled down on here. So if you hated that change to the lore in Superman, this only compounds it. As the second theatrical release in James Gunn's DCU, this does not bode well at all. Well, that's all I've got for now. Let me know what you think in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching.
See you, tits.